Do not take this if you're going to drive a car or operate any heavy machinery. You have been warned. But that's not what we're going to be talking about. This is an antique Panasonic flip-clock digital flip-clock radio. I actually got this from an estate. A good friend of the family had passed away, and this was sitting in their, I think it was sitting on the kitchen counter, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing with that clock? They were going to throw it away, so I'm like, no you're not. I'll take it. This is one owner, and it's been around the block, and we're going to see if we can fix it. It actually does work. I'll power it up. You can hear the motor spinning. The clock is going. But you know, it's seen better days. It was in an environment where it was exposed to heavy amounts of cigarette smoke. This is a tuning knob, or no? This is the on-off volume knob. It is something going on inside there. I actually did have it on. There we go. So this works. It doesn't even crackle.
Hey, break. Now here it is. You're listening to PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Oh yeah, it's racing season, isn't it?
And the Pats will now be in a 3rd down and 1 from their 45.
So all seems to be well and good. It even has this electromechanical sleep switch. So if I put it on, you got to turn the radio off for this. This is your sleep switch. What it does is that even modern clock radios have this, where you set it to turn the to run the radio for a set amount of time, and then it shuts off, so you can lull yourself to sleep.
Cross the line of scrimmage and a pickup of 3 out to the
This runs off the clock,
Taylor again.
I think. So everything seems to work. The flip clock mechanism is functional, but there is no there's no backlight, so there should be some lighting back there. It's not functioning. We got to figure out what kind of bulb is in there and replace it. And if I look underneath, I can clearly see that this is a fairly old piece of equipment. Just look at that circuit board. This is an old hand-drawn board. That's the way they used to make them. I'm going to sit down in this chair over there, and we're going to take it apart. Yeah, usually the older boards are the ones that have the curved tracers, and that's definitely a sign of 1970s, 1960s even manufacturing. We're going to take this is the tuning knob. Actually, no, that's the clock control. And we're going to take that off. I'm going to take off the tuning knob here, just pop it off, and the volume control, which just slid right off. So, turns out, and I just learned this now, that the problem appears to be the knob itself, and not actually the switch. We'll explore that in a little bit. I'm also going to take the knobs off the top. They just pull right out. And it looks like that's how they all come off, it looks like. I was thinking maybe there was a hidden screw in the sleep knob, but no, that just pops off as well. So we should be able to lift the cover completely off, like that. Take a look inside. Okay, it's got a headphone jack that's screwed into the cover. We're going to just take that off too. This right here, we're just going to twist it, and it's going to loosen up. Now, I'm going to have to take a small screwdriver. Let me show you how to get those off. Those are pretty easy to get off. This thing smells horrible. Like I said, it was in a home that was definitely smoked in for many years. Cleaning this clock mechanism might be a challenge. The thing is, even the flip numbers are a little bit smoky, but that shouldn't be a big deal. Now where's the... Yeah, here's the lamp for the clock. Doesn't appear to be one for the tuning area. Let me let's do some exploration here. We've already lost one flip clock on my channel, and it was my fault. I made a mistake, and I regret that. Let's see. Made in Japan, no shit. Nothing indicating its age. I mean, I don't expect that anyway. But we definitely need to wash all the plastic, so this whole thing's got to come apart. I actually have a tripod, and look, there it is. There's proof. There's my tripod. I don't like using it. It's always in the way. People ask and they bitch and moan, why don't you use a tripod? Well, the truth is, they get in the way, man. They really do. They get in the way. I can't loosen this sucker. I don't know. This thing is disgusting. I mean, like, disgusting. So it's going to need major cleaning. I think it sat on their kitchen counter for like 30 years. And if I'm not mistaken, that's where it was. It was like, just right there. So I'm working off the earphone. Sorry, I can't see that, but working off the earphone retaining collar. No, you... Oh, that was close. It went under the stove and then it rolled out. That was close. Alright. Let's work on that speaker. That speaker should come out just fine. I hear The Simpsons is doing a spoof on on Boston tonight. I can't wait to see that. I also can't wait to see the... There's another debate. Oh, this will be fun. What's Trump gonna do? What's he gonna do? I can't wait. I can't wait to see what the freaking guy does. It's so depressing to see that he, of all people, he's gonna be responsible for the death of the entire Republican Party, and they know it, and they're scared. And, oh my God. Well, we can fix that. We can clean it. It's not ripped or torn or anything. I'm going to start off by, like, I don't know, cleaning this. This is gross. This is a possibly a dishwasher job. What do you think? I got to run a load of dishes through anyway. I might as well give it a shot. I don't think it will harm the... So whenever you consider washing stuff in the dishwasher, you want to make sure that there aren't any small components that could fall off that are adhered. Well, we're gonna do it. We're gonna see what happens. Now, the next part, we're gonna have to disassemble the entire clock. Something I don't want to do, but I'm afraid I don't think I have a choice. But the cool thing about these old clocks, or these old electronics, look at this. This screw is loose. Whoops. This screw is just sort of sitting there, ready to fall out. Wonder how long it's been like that. Yeah, this whole thing will just come right out as one unit, I believe. That's how they used to do things way back. Pretty much meant for, you know, easy production. You know, quick and easy. Not built like this. The question is, we got to figure out where all the mount points are. Some of them aren't really mounting points. They're not. In other words, some screws hold the chassis together, and some screws hold the chassis to the case. You got to figure out what's what. So I'm going to take out. I thought these held the transformer down, but I could be wrong. It looks like these actually hold the front end of the clock in there. So, pull those. Doing this all one. Ooh, I think we're getting there. Yeah, it looks like we got one screw there. It's next to the AM loop and it's waxed in. Just kick it out. There we go. Alright, now I think I can pull it out, you know, as one big unit. There, like that, you know. Yep. Okay. Clock O Libre. Now, because we're going to dishwasher this thing, and I'm going to dishwasher the whole thing. Oh my god. I'm also going to show you how to fix these screw towers. Stay tuned. This one is completely smashed. That's why it's not holding anything in place. But we can save it. We can totally save it. Made in Japan. RKM68B. No production date that I can see. And there's no, like, usually you can see, you know, whenever they make the molds for these shells, you can see when that mold was made, and there's nothing. And I think they started doing that very recently in history. But look at how disgusting this thing is. We're gonna pre-wash this with something that might help. When I washed, I did my grandmother a favor once. I decided I was going to clean her car. Yeah. In exchange, I was going to use her car to learn how to drive a stick shift. She had a 1993 Hyundai Excel. She bought the car brand new in 93, or actually it might have been 92. And she drove that car until about 2003. Now, she was a very heavy smoker. It's not what killed her. Actually, it was the steady diet of Diet Coke and potato chips that killed her. But the smoking didn't do it. Didn't help. But I said, hey, if I can use your car to learn how to drive a stick, because I needed to learn how to drive a stick, that was what I was going to be driving. I was going to be driving my own car, which was a Volkswagen GTI 5-speed stick. So I needed to get some practice, and my car wasn't ready. So I said, I'll tell you what, if you take me out driving, I'll clean your car. And she would have done the driving anyway. I just wanted to clean her car because I felt bad for how disgusting it was. And she knew it. She wasn't shy. But her car, it was gross. So I started cleaning the dash, and I used, I think I used Clorox cleanup. I mean, it was gross. And it was all this brown, yellowish liquid just running off the dash, and I'm like, oh! I did the job, I finished it up, I learned how to drive a stick, all ends well. But you're gonna see firsthand what cigarette smoke does to your electronics. At least I hope that's what's happening here. It's just, well, maybe not. I don't see anything coming off of these. But Clorox cleanup pretty much washes this stuff right off. If you can handle the fumes. Now, it also attacks metal. And I did this on purpose. You can wash it right off. Just be very, very quick about it. So if there's any metal, like this bezel here, you've got to be quick. You can get it off. You just got to be quick about it. You can't let it sit there. Otherwise, and I was kind of hoping that it would happen, but I can show you a way to restore the finish pretty easily. But anyway, I just wanted to do that demonstration. There is nothing. Oh, I can see a little bit. It's not quite as bad as I anticipated. But like I said, you want to be careful. That actually cleaned it right off. Really, look at it. It's pretty much clean. But we're going to run through the dishwasher anyway. So, as I was saying, this metal stuff, you got to really worry about. You got to be careful, because if you use caustic or corrosive substances like bleach, you can corrode this pretty rapidly. You just don't want the bleach to sit on there very long, because it will do that. But yeah, this is gross. But it's gotten better. It's gotten better. So let's run it through the dishwasher and see if we can get it even cleaner. As it dries, you can see a chalky film. That is mostly nicotine. It turns out this faceplate just snaps right off. And interestingly enough, the clips aren't broken. Modern day clear plastics tend to do that. But whatever this is made out of, it didn't. You're going to see a little bit of like a brownish substance in there. That is old glue. It is not rust. And yeah, it looks like this rim is definitely made out of a brushed aluminum or something like that. So we're going to just run it all through and hope for the best. So let's take a look at our mechanism. Now, I brought out some clock oil. We are going to do some lubricating to the seat. Yeah, I want to show you this too. I'm going to have to do something drastic with this clock. See how this is all yellowed. All of it is just yellowed. And it wasn't built that way. This is the motor. You know what? It wasn't running at all. No, it was not running. In fact, if I plug this in right now, it's not going to run. It was stuck. Let's see if we can get it to run. I thought that was supposed to spin, but it wasn't spinning. So that could be an indicator of another problem. Let's just take a look. Cool thing about these old electronics is you can run them outside of their box and they'll still function. Let's plug it in. Maybe we can get it to spin up. Hey, that light is actually working. Wouldn't you know it? It's a fluorescent light. Not getting anything out of it. I'm not seeing anything. I hear a humming, and I mistook that for the motor running. And it's not. There it goes. Got it. Ha! Took a little bit. There she goes. So we've got to do some work to this clock. There's just no way around that. Oh, it stopped. Come on. Go, girl. You go, girl. I don't know why I said that, but it wants to go. It wants to stay running, but it's probably going to stop. So we've got some work ahead of us. We've got to pull her apart and do some cleaning and recon. The easiest thing to do is to not desolder anything, but to just remove the electrical components from the flip clock assembly. And we just have to remove the motor now. Doing this very carefully because I don't want to break any wires. I don't want to have to solder anything. Oh wow, look at the pattern this thing made. This is from 50 years of spinning in a very smoke infested environment. Look at that. That is beautiful. I mean, it's not, but it is. What's interesting about this clock is that the rotor is visible on the other side. It's different. Okay, so we've got the clock out and all by its lonesome. So there's that. Now this motor does need some lubrication somehow, and sadly, it's not really accessible. This is completely different from the Telecron-based clock that I worked on the last time. I think it was a Telecron. Everything is kind of... Oh, yeah, this... Hear that? My dishwasher is like seizing up on me. I'm just waiting for it to die so I can get a new one. You really want to know. I think it's pretty much had it. It doesn't want to let go of the screw. Come on. You hear it? It's like clicking and shit. Poor thing. Do need a new dishwasher though. Alright. This cover does come off. I'm just going to kind of pry it off a little bit. There we go. Alright. Now I've got my clock oil here. What I'm going to do is we're going to plug this mess in, making sure nothing is shorting out anywhere. And we're going to let it run for a little while after I get the oil in the unit here. Re-angle the camera. So I'm going to squirt some oil right down in the middle where I can see the main output gear. We're just going to kind of get some oil down in there. That's where the main bearing is. So hopefully we can... Oh wow, I can already feel the difference. Oh, maybe not. Can you hear it? It's just, the bearing is just shot. The bearing that I need to oil, I can't access. What I'm going to do is do my best. I'm going to do a shot in the dark right there. Can you see that? I'm just going to shoot the oil into one of these holes and just kind of hope that it gets down in there. This oil is light enough for the job. This is actual clock oil, so this is probably the best thing for me to use. Not WD-40, not motor oil, none of those things. Those are not clock oil. I'm also going to oil all the little pivots in here. You can see where all the gears end and their shafts protrude from this plate here, and just a tiny bit here, 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 here. Alright. They're also going to get right down in there on the other side of that plate. And I want to lubricate every single thing that moves as much as I can, or as well as I can, I ought to say. Fat chance it's going to need some help, although it's better than it was. Still not the desired result. It's noisy as hell too. Yeah, this poor motor. You know, the other thing is it sat for a long time plugged in, not running. So that also is a problem. Oh man, that's not good. We got to get oil in this bearing somehow. I'm not really sure how we're going to do it. If I can't get that motor to reliably run, the clock will never keep time, and it will be all for nothing. So, yeah, the bearing is just shot. I mean, I can feel movement in the rotor. It's never a good sign. What are my options here? Let's get our needle down in there and drill, baby, drill. Hopefully some of it works its way in. It's not promising. But it's this top bearing here. This is where the problem is. I can feel it. Ooh, I think I got something in. So we need the oil to really get in. And again, it didn't start up on its own. It's going to need more assistance. Meanwhile, while that motor cooks itself to death and my dishwasher destroys the housing, we're going to try to do something with this. We're going to try to clean up this hour wheel here. This is the alarm wheel. What we're going to do is we're going to take this wheel here. I got some Windex. And I'm going to just try to kind of just clean it up. Okay, so with a little bit of Clorox cleanup, I was able to remove the nicotine stains from the alarm dial, and basically, well, you can't really tell now, but it turned the rag almost black, and in some spots. As it turns out, yes, it was heavily stained. Heavily stained. But it got back. I just cleaned off the Windex with a little bit of, cleanup with a little bit of Windex. So the alarm wheel is supposed to be yellow for the PM side, but white for the AM side. It was more of a mother of pearl on the AM side and orange on the PM side. Well, that's cooking itself to death. I'm going to start lubricating some stuff. Just a little bit of clock oil here and there. Now, this thing should be disassembled and properly cleaned, but ain't got time for that. I mean, that is a lot of work, with not a lot of reward. So, while it would be cool to have a working flip clock, I may never have one. I mean, they're all pretty much worn out. And that's the thing. Any flip clock that's been in use for 50 years is going to need major repairs, including a new motor. So, this is, by the way, where the light bulb was locked in place. We're just going to try to get every pivot that we can. We want to reduce any amount of drag that we can off that motor. So, it's absolutely critical that we do our job the right way. Just kind of, lube it up. Lube it up. Alright. Let that sit like that. Kind of spins a little nicer though. Oh, that's the, it was set, yeah, okay, that's the set time. The alarm set time. I'm going to pop the motor on the side of this and see if it'll drive it. So what we have here is our sleep knob. Now what this does is when you turn this knob, it can go up to 60 minutes of radio on time, and then it automatically shuts off. And it runs off of this spur gear, which is driven, well, it doesn't really have like an hour and minute shaft like a standard clock would, but basically time to go off after 60 minutes is fully engaged. So after 60 minutes, this gear will rotate this shaft all the way to that halfway point, at which the back of this shaft, which is a cam, will knock this over that way, which is already in that position. It'll be easier to show you what it looks like with the radio in the off position, where it goes like this. There, that's the off position. And it interacts with one of these micro switches. I believe it's this one. This micro switch will turn the radio on or off. If I press this in, the radio turns on. Now this one here is our alarm switch. The alarm wheel activates this lever here when it's, in the right position, which actuates this switch over here, and that will turn the alarm on, or kick it on. The motor's running okay, but it's not at a point where I think I can trust it to start up on its own. See, I just stopped it, and it's still not going. Now, I just watched a how-to video on this very issue. It was a more modern version of this clock, which actually had a cover over this rotor. And, like every other person who doesn't know any better, this individual used WD-40. Now, let me tell you about WD-40. WD-40 is not a lubricant. It's more of a penetrating oil. It's a creeping oil. It's not a lubricant per se. It's not a long-term solution. but it just might help. Now, clock oil is what you've got to use. WD-40 is good for freeing up stuck shit. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to spray WD-40 into this motor. Now, it's live, so I'm going to go unplug it first. So, we're going to go ahead and just go for broke. Because nothing else is working. Nothing else is working. And it's, again, it is the back bearing. The one closest to the rotor. That is our problem. So we're going to go for broke. We're going to just get some WD-40 in there and just see what happens. Now I bet you it'll run. Oh, it'll totally run. But it won't be for long. Because one of the things WD-40 does is it gums up. Over time. So what we're doing now is we're basically reassembling the motor, as you can see. So what I was really getting at is with WD-40, it is not a lubricant. What's going to happen is it's going to do one of two things. For starters, it's going to mix in with all that clock oil that we dumped in there and hopefully help that clock oil wick its way into the motor. In the meantime, it will actually soften or reconstitute the existing lubricant that came in the motor when it was manufactured. We have two bearings in this motor, one on the top or on the outboard bearing, and we have an inboard bearing. That's the one that's in the gearbox side. The one that's really giving us the problem is the outboard bearing, which is underneath that rotor that you see in front of you. It's in a location that is impossible for me to lubricate. Because the motor is pressed together at assembly, it is impossible for me to take it apart without damaging it, clean the shaft, and properly lubricate it. So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. We have to use the wrong thing. We have to use WD-40. And like I said, it will work. And I'll just spoiler alert, the next day the thing is still running fine. But WD-40 will evaporate and it will gum it up. Just hoping that all that clock oil will help to prevent that from happening. So let's see what happens. Alright, ready, set, hey, look at that. It worked. It actually worked. But I expected that result. But what I do not expect is I do not expect this clock to work 3 or 4 years from now. And what's worse, it's going to be even harder for me to clean that motor because it's going to have all that dried up WD-40 gunk in there and whatever old oil and the oil I've added. It's really a losing battle. But for now, the clock runs and I'm happy. As a matter of fact, it's still keeping time. Again, I'm recording the voiceover 1 day later. It's still keeping perfect time. So here's to hoping that it survives and that we don't have any more problems with this clock ever again. Fat chance, but it's great thinking that it could be happening, could be possible. And you know something? I can barely hear that motor. It is dead silent. So I'm going to clean this light bulb off a little bit. Now this is 117 volts as well, pumping right through this old insulation. I could electrocute myself right now, but it didn't happen. So hooray for small miracles. But look at all that dirt and grime that I found on there. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Now if you smoke, all that shit's in your lungs. Yeah, it's not good. So, dishwasher's on a dry cycle. Let's see how our stuff came out. Let's see how we ruined it, if it even helped. It's going to have to dry a little bit before we really know. So I think that clock is running fast. I mean, it seems to be ticking over a little faster than I anticipated, but we'll know more about it in a minute. This came out all right. All that film is gone, greasy film, and the faceplate. How did it fare? So you'll see how it's really scratched up pretty bad. We're going to fix that too, if you just stick around. polishing the plastic was unsuccessful, so here we're going to go ahead and try to reinforce some of those towers using shrink tubing and Loctite gel adhesive. It's like a super glue. So what you want to do is you want to select the right size shrink tube, slip it over as much of the perfectly round area of the support tower as you can. And now here we're going to be cutting that shrink tube to fit. Okay, now we're going to take our, which is basically now just a collar, and we're going to slide it right over that that tower there. And we're going to take some of our glue and we're going to stick it into the cracks of the support tower. And we're going to allow some of that to kind of bleed over around so that it actually adheres the shrink tube as well when it finishes all solidifying. It'll help it solidify as one unit rather than two separate pieces. So then we need to find ourselves a heat source. I suggest using a heat gun, but I didn't have my heat gun handy, so I grabbed a one of these fire starter lighter things, and we're going to apply the heat. You don't want to get the shrink tubing directly in touch with the heat with the flame. You don't want the flame to touch it, but sometimes it's inevitable. Unfortunately, that glue is flammable, so see what happens there. We turned it into a candle. If you were using a heat gun, that would not necessarily happen. So what's going to happen is that heat is also going to help soften the plastic a little bit and kind of work as a system to draw it all together so that when that glue finally does its thing, which could take about an hour or so, you have one solidified, restored support tower that will actually take a screw. And that is what you want. You want that to be strong enough to support the threads of a screw. And you don't want to go too tight with it. You just want it to, just so you can snug it together again. And that's all you're after. The clock is still spinning free. It is set to 3:53. Okay. That was my impression of the Twilight Zone theme. And let's see how accurate this clock is. It's been running for like, what, an hour and a half now? Almost 2 hours. And it's right about where it should be. Before we haul off and dump the chassis back into the shell, I'm going to just put a few drops of oil on, what the hell, why not the volume knob? And the tuning knob, bushing. And careful not to get it on the string, we don't want any slippage. Just a couple of drops. I mean, if it works in it, great. If it doesn't, great. It's not going to hurt anything. There we go. There's also a pulley down here. I'm going to put a drop on that too. Again, just enough for it to eventually work its way down the axle. I'm going to put some on the shift and the control knob there. Why not? It couldn't hurt. And let's take a look. There should be a pulley underneath. Yeah, there it is. We're going to get that one too. Clock's almost 50 years old. I actually did some homework on this clock. Turns out it is, it's one of the earlier models from about 1970. And later models, you can actually tell right off, later models have the actual motor rotor itself is encased or covered to protect it from dust, intrusion. The earlier ones, they wanted you to be able to see if the motor was rotating, but they realized likely that it was causing dust intrusion. So we're going to go to set this into the chassis, or into the shell. Alright, now, so basically the unit is assembled. And now we're just going to pop it together. Take another look, make sure there's nothing missing or obviously wrong. Yeah, everything looks pretty good to me. I did mention I would talk about these headphone jack mounts. These are pretty common. These are like a panel mounted headphone jack, or they have all different kinds. Switches even. Dip switch, I'm sorry, dongle switches and stuff. The locking ring has 2 grooves, and they're designed to be knocked into place with either a spanner, or if you're just a kitchen technician like me, you can even use a flat blade screwdriver. So we're going to put this back into its hole. I'm going to position the camera precariously on the chassis like so. Oh, fuck. Let's try that. That works. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully thread this on with my thumb. And when it's tight, once it bottoms out, I'm going to use my flat blade screwdriver right here, a little mini one, and I'm going to just use that to knock it into place. We don't need to get this super tight. We just need to get it tight enough to not fall out. Now, the odds of me connecting headphones to this, about 1 in a billion. So if the jack even works, I don't even care. This is not an iPhone. Now, this would have been used originally by a single earbud. They didn't have it. These weren't stereo headphone jacks. If you plug in stereo headphones into that jack, you're going to hear audio from one side only. Because it was designed for just a single earbud or a pillow speaker. You'd lull yourself to sleep with the tunes or the hits of the day, which would have been The Doors, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Steelers Wheel. The list goes on and on into the Classic Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. All the good ones, all the good guys. So we have one. I didn't bother with that split ring. I don't have the other one, and fuck it. I did tighten the motor down really well. It's not going to loosen up on its own. It's a little bit of over-engineering on their behalf, I think. But no, it really isn't. I mean, there's a reason for it. I mean, why add steps to the assembly line that are unnecessary? I mean, if this was a German clock radio, I would say, yeah, that would make sense, but it's not. And now you know what it's like to tear apart a, I just found the other, this is like the tension wheel that goes to the tuning dial. It's on the bottom of the board. I never saw it. I didn't actually flip the board completely, so that's okay. And there we go. So if you saw the whole, I think this is going to be a 1-hour video. You saw the whole process. I left nothing out. We cleaned everything. We made it new again. We made this clock radio great again. This is our alarm setting wheel. This is our main switch selector shaft thingamajig, and I believe it goes on like this. It should be in the off position right now, so it's going to line up with the off indicator. There we go. So okay, this is the incorrect volume knob. This is our sleep function. I saw a YouTube video of a guy who was working on one of these, and he was using the butter knife trick and everything, and that is the right way to do it. I've been doing this stuff forever. I take shortcuts because I do. Don't judge me. Yeah. I'll put this back in its place. tuning dial. You know what I'm going to do? Oh, that was scary. I want to... This is actually the volume knob, if I recall, because it's got a it's got an indicator on it. So that would be the proper volume knob, in fact. The tuning knob would be completely round like this one. This is not the right one. This is not the right one, though. And I'm going to just work it on there. I mean, it's not right, but no, it's not even going to fit. It doesn't even fit at all. And I'm going to just damage it by forcing it, so here's what it is. Here is the clock setting knob. Here we go. There we go. That was cool. Alright, let's plug it in. Here's my annoying clicky ankle again. Alright. Okay. I should have light here. Let's turn this off. See if we can even see it. Let's turn this off. It should be visible at night, and that's all. But you know what? It looks like that fluorescent bulb is probably on its last legs because I can barely see this clock. So, but we know it's not burned out completely. So that would be something to replace, perhaps, in the future. Alright, we got 7 minutes left on the camera before it goes black. And for some reason it won't focus anymore. Are you kidding me? There we go. On we go. Oh, it is on. Look at that. Just noticed it's spinning. Alright, so I'm going to set this to alarm. And we're going to try to engage the alarm. Oh, that's... Seriously? That's it? That's the alarm. Okay. That's the radio alarm. That's the electronic alarm. That sounds so bad. That sounds so bad. There it goes. So this all works okay. Now I got to test the sleep function. Works. Works okay. Imagine waking up to this every morning. Should be 8 p.m. almost. Oh, it's a.m. That sounds so terrible. Oh my god, that's awful. Alright, well, that concludes our video. Thanks for watching.